Hello, my name is Andrew and I am an intonation nerd. This video provides some instructions and tips on how to use my Tuning Drills play-along videos. I linked some playlists in this video description below. As you can also see here, I wrote a set of play-along books. These are intended for use in ensembles, not as a supplement to the play-along videos, but the exercises are otherwise very similar. The books include many more sets of drills. When you play any of these videos, the first thing you hear is a click track. Then you hear the chord sequence. Every sequence is 4 beats of rest, then 4 beats per chord, and 8 for the chordata fermata. This will repeat several times, and these videos only consist of this pattern. This is so that you can let the sound play and you don't have to reset the playback to loop it quite so often. I intend the playbacks in these videos to simulate playing with an ensemble. Astute listeners may notice the very slight sense of not quite being exactly in tune, although the actual deviation here is very small. Nevertheless, I think that in some ways these are better than a drone with perfect harmonic overtones, because most ensembles similarly will not be exactly in tune, and this is something musicians must deal with in live performance. In addition to intonation practice, these exercises should help you recognize when you are playing certain voices, each of which has their own unique flavor. This top line shows various ways of writing the same voice. These are 4 very common ways that different voices will progress in each of these chord sequences, each following standard voice leading rules. Ultimately, you should practice with all 4 of these voices, but to start, pick any voice, it doesn't matter, and read according to your instrument. Thus, if you play flute, oboe, C trumpet, or any other non-transposing treble clef instrument, select from any one of these 4 measures. If you play viola or otherwise want to practice your alto clef reading, select from one of these measures. If you play tenor clef trombone or cello or any other instrument that uses tenor clef, select from one of these measures. If you play bass clef trombone, tuba, cello, bass, or any other instrument that uses bass clef, select from one of these measures. If you play a F horn or any other F transposing instrument, select from one of these measures. If you play trumpet, tenor saxophone, B-flat clarinet, or any other B-flat transposing instrument, select from these measures. And if you play alto saxophone, baritone saxophone, or any other E-flat transposing instrument, select from these measures. Unless you are singing, the first thing you will need to do is to tune your instrument to the video. Tune to the root note of the fermata chord. For example, if you're getting ready to do 1-5-1 exercises in C major and you're playing an E-flat alto saxophone, tune your instrument to this C. I prefer telling people to tune to actual sounds than to tuners for many reasons that I don't want to go into here. In every measure, I wrote numbers under each note. These numbers correspond to the note's functions. Thus, in this first measure, 1-3-1 means you're playing the root of the first chord, the third of the second chord, and the root of the third chord. You can then apply these tuning instructions, although the more fundamental goal is to recognize how the note you play functions in a chord, and to potentially recognize your note's harmonic function by ear in other contexts. A nice way to start thinking about this is to simply look at the key and the notes you have. For example, if you are playing a Bach chorale in C major and you see in your part CBC, there's a decent chance that the music will be using this 1-5-1 pattern and you're playing this voice. Then, in performance, even without seeing any other part, you should get to the point where you can recognize by ear if this is indeed what is going on or if it's something else. Although these patterns here are very common, it's important to remember that any particular note can have any function dependent on context. Each function has its own harmonic color that musicians learn to recognize by ear. For example, learning the color of when you are playing a major third versus a perfect fifth. When you recognize what function your note has, dialing in the tuning becomes much easier. The particular octave that you play does not really matter in these exercises. If what is written is uncomfortably high or low for your instrument, just play it up or down an octave to make it easier. Or, if you prefer, you can play in different octaves each time you play through a sequence. But to start, I recommend keeping this as easy as possible and just play your easiest octave. As I mentioned already, these playbacks are very slightly out of tune to simulate an ensemble. If you want an absolutely perfectly tuned playback, I recommend you go to any of many drone videos on YouTube. I particularly like cello drones and tempura drones, and because I'm a trombonist, trombone drones. To apply these patterns to drone exercises, identify which note stays constant throughout the chord progression and select that pitch as the drone. For example, given 1-5-1 in C major, the common pitch between all three chords is a G. There are other ways of using these exercises beyond what I wrote here. These measures are simply a starting point. For example, you can add some anticipations, suspensions, or play each chord as an arpeggio. If you have further questions or ideas, please let me know in the comments. Happy practicing!